The port has made some, I would say, some serious changes this year so far. We're in the park business. Who thought, lo and behold, that in 1921, we were pulling cargo off on the dock down the street, and now we're in the Willow Grove Park ownership? We're still involved in an airport. So the port continues to evolve and hasn't really settled into its stride. But the one thing's for sure is the port is here, obviously, to stay, and we have a very important mission. And that is to support your community, which is our community. Jobs, economy. Taxation's a hot issue right now. We're working on a tax plan. The commissioners, all of us, will have great talks about that. I know that that seems to be an interesting topic for taxes. So we'll get to that here in just a moment. Meantime, for those that don't know about the port, I'll do a very quick little history. In 1911, Washington State decided to beat up on another bully, and that was called the railroads. The railroads in 1911 had taken over all the good property. They held you at risk. They told you what to do and how to do it. Thus, you were being railroaded. There's a lot of ways when railroads went to that level. So in 1911, Washington State enacted legislation that says, no, you can go to any local community you want. You can take it back from the railroad, and you can do what your local community wants. In fact, Washington State ports are so weird, they're not like a lot of other ports in the United States of America. We have 75 ports, and some aren't even near water. Okay, I get that. But what you get out of a Washington State port that you may not get out of other state ports is you get direct control. It's you can drive what you want in your community, the port. It's one of the very few voter hands-on where you can decide, do you want an oil terminal? Do you want a grain terminal? Do you want no jobs? Do you want robots? It's so self-driven by your community. I think that's a bonus. And obviously, we all get the paper or aware of the media sources we hear. We hear about recent decisions like the oil refinery project that we unanimously voted no. There was so much more to the no reasoning, there was no way you could expect the media to get it right. So if you have any questions on that, ask away on the oil refinery. Why we said no and what's going to happen next. But meantime, the ports have evolved, and our port has got, I think, some of the neatest history I've ever heard. For example, the Port of Longview, of course, didn't start out as the Port of Longview. It started out as the Port of Kelso, about 1921. However, there was a need to move the port to deeper water. A committee was formed. In fact, in 1921, it became quite a hot topic to move the port to Longview. It got such a hot topic that a guy named, I can't remember his name, I apologize, but a gentleman came to Longview from Centralia named Ruick Todd. And Mr. Todd was hired by the Kelso Chamber of Commerce, and his job was to help influence Kelso to keep the port at Kelso. Why would Kelso want to give up their port and move to Longview? Big rift. We think today about Kelso Highlanders and the Monarchs and the Lumberjacks and the big rivalry. Oh, the Port of Longview gets credit for a rivalry well before any high schools were fighting it out on the Friday night football turf. In fact, it was such a disarray, they brought this gentleman from Centralia. He stirred the pot, created such an uproar that the citizens of Kelso kind of waited so long where they simply got outvoted, and the port was moved to where the Longview docks was. However, the name change from Port Kelso to Port Longview really didn't officially take board action until 1925. But I will tell you a very quick story. During all this turmoil, the rift between Longview and Kelso, should we move off of the Cowlitz River? Well, really what was happening at that time, they wanted to go to Carroll's Channel. But the natural fit was down here at Oregon Way. Deep water port, 40 acres, Longview willing to sell, buy it, do it. Most of the community wanted it, but Kelso was predominantly against it. But it got so heated that somebody was shot in the back of the head as they walked home one night. A newspaper editor was shot in downtown Kelso because he was a supporter of moving the port physically to Longview. Again, it's not about name, Kelso, Longview, and that's what I tell this story to, because I wasn't alive in 1921, obviously. And now that I'm here, I'll tell you that the port, it's your port, it's our port. So whether it's named Port Kelso or Port Washington or Port Longview, doesn't matter, it's yours. Regardless, it's everybody's. Anybody in this county, 103,000 people live in Cowlitz County. So the way I look at it is I have 103,000 bosses, plus my wife, and she's really the main boss, so she's going to outrule everybody. But there you are to the Port of Longview. Today we do revenues. We're basically about a $40 million a year port. We provide about 29 jobs administrative in the office. 32. See, there, I got a fact checker here.
Thank you, Ashley.
Uh-oh. Then she's going to get me on this. We have steadies on the dock, have 25 ILWU steady, and then we have 29 other union workers on the dock. It's not just ILWUs. We know there are several other trades. When I say union, I mean that is a union facility, but there are several trades there, so it's not just the local 21, of course. So we consider ourselves to be a good employer, but we're stuck in an area of change. Times are changing. Now it seems we have a lot of discussions on projects. We talk a lot about environmental concerns, quality of life, and all these things. 30, 40 years ago, I never heard that, but we do now. And I'm glad that we consider it, but we are a work in progress. So your work in progress counts as some of the following. You now own over 800, here she goes again, 834 acres, I believe, of land that we have. Alone at Barlow Point, you have, here she goes again, in fact, we have 283.2 acres. Okay, we've got a lot of land at Barlow Point that you have. Barlow Point is a shining star to you. It's never been built on. Cows have visited it. Deer have come in, and geese have. No factory. No man has commercially developed that property. So if you think you're looking at the port to be a shining star in the future, absolutely. How can you not? How can you be 66 miles up the river? Of course, Barlow Point is 60 miles from the mouth of the Columbia. The port proper is 66 miles. It's almost, you're in a position of you're going to win. It's not a matter of if, it's when. Deep water ports along the Columbia are so very rare indeed to get. So our future is incredibly bright, and we're working on our existing facilities. Does anybody know what it's like to be 100 years old? Well, that's pretty much what the port's going to be in 2021. So our buildings have got some arthritis, they've got some back problems, and we have a very hungry capital budget. We have to fix up facilities that are approaching that wonderful age. But the good news is, hopefully by then we will have landed a number of industries that provide family wage jobs to report back so we can have a celebration, because after all, when you turn 100, you should have a party. So there's going to be a party of some sorts in 2021. I can say that.
A whole year.
There we go. Okay, how am I doing on time?
We haven't done it.
Yeah, we haven't. Yeah.
Good girl.
And we handed out a little bit of the cargo. The Port of Longview is niche. We hear a lot of things about ports, and you hear about, a lot of times our neighbors to the north get all the attention, or the neighbors to Klamath get the attention. As far as I'm concerned, the Columbia River makes us neighbors. We are intertwined. However, Puget Sound and Port of Seattle, Port of Tacoma, we're all in this together, but we are competitive in different regions. The Port of Longview has not signed a Seaport Alliance contract like the Port of Tacoma did with the Port of Seattle. They needed to do that to survive, to fight the containerization that Prince Rupert in Canada was stealing from us Americans. We support that because we're all in this together. But there are big differences of ports, huge differences. Our niches are very, as you can see in the handout, dry bulk, break bulk. We do all kinds of cargoes that we can do. And that really makes us look really good for the future, for future tenants and customers. We've been profitable this year. I hope to continue that we're going to be profitable. I don't think it may as profitably as last year. Log exports are down. I believe they're still down a little bit. So, and we're cyclic. How do you budget? How do you know if you're rich or famous? How do you know if you've got any money or not coming in? It's a little tough being a port because we're a revenue generating port. It's dependent upon cargoes. We're not say the Port of Seattle, Tacoma in containerization. With our cargoes, they're subject to cycles in the market. Sometimes markets are good, sometimes they're bad. But generally speaking, we've got a system going now, about a $40 million a year. We're starting to hit our stride. And I'm very proud of that. I think that's my opening. Is that?
You need a little more.
No, it's up to you. I've never written. She's going to get mad. She is Ashley Hellenberg. She's to my right. She is my boss, like you are my boss. Even though I'm a port commissioner, I got elected. That's how you're my boss. That's just my boss. I work for you. Yes, sir.
Okay, the intersection down 432 is the one we're hearing about costing $80 million or whatever. This is not just for Millennium. Could you comment about developing Barlow Point?
Absolutely. For the longest time, if anybody's lived here long enough, you know what I'm talking about. If you've been near that bridge, the Longview Rainier Bridge, either on Labor Day weekend or during the STP, Seattle to Portland bicycle race, or Rainier Days in the Park, we're not talking industry, we're just talking fun social times, you'll see that bridge traffic jam. Or many other times you'll go down there and you can't get to the port because all the log trucks are backed, Weyerhaeuser's got them backed up. The need to open up the base of that bridge is so critical. It's really what's tying our hands for the future. It's a great point what Mr. Dreyer said on there. Finally, our friends in Olympia, works through Ashley, who's not only external affairs community director, she does also our political work in Olympia for us. And to garner $85 million sounds like a lot of money, like it's going to be done. Unfortunately, the size of government, they need to go on a diet. The $85 million isn't going to get everything built. It's design and engineering. It's really going to be more like 200 to 300. What do you get for a couple $100 million bucks? Well, you can get train tracks that you don't have to cross anymore. So unit trains can come in, so that trucks can move around without blocking or interfering your daily life. Emergency responders can get to somebody with a heart attack, or you can get out of town if a dam breaks or you have to go someplace under a natural disaster. So fixing that interchange is critical to our infrastructure because Industrial Way, we've all been down that road, the truck route, that is the most heavily traveled street or road in all of the county. More vehicles, personal vehicles and commercial vehicles use that route than anybody. Of course, if AWPPW doesn't know anything about that, you know that road better than I do. Yes, sir.
You don't fix the crossing on the other end of Industrial Way, you have engaging.
Oh, absolutely. That's a good point. I have to clarify. A couple things we'll clarify real quick. The building or the fixing up of the interchange 432, 433, known as Industrial Way, Oregon Way project, is more than just the bridge. You're right. It's the intersection over here where the train crosses at California. Also over the bridge. There's only one old cantilever bridge, much older than I am, over the Cowlitz. That old rusty thing that hasn't opened for years on the Cowlitz. That's an Achilles heel. You only have one bridge. That means what happens if the bridge shuts down? Doesn't matter how many choo-choo trains you have or tracks. You're trapped. How about a second bridge? So you're right. It's really west and east of Longview. The bridge itself and 3 or 4 other projects are part of this. And there's also down the street, you have your neighbors. What about Weyerhaeuser? What are all the workers that come and go to Weyerhaeuser and their customers? They're going to cross train tracks too. So that's part of the equation. But really how it serves it, what we know is if you don't fix that infrastructure, you're going to get bottlenecked. You're done. You're going to come not to a grinding halt and the sky is not going to fall. But things are going to slow down to where it won't be conducive. And for those people that will tell you, why should you spend good taxpayer money on a interchange or these road intersections and choo-choo trains? Because it's all for Millennium Bulk Terminals. We're doing all this for coal because the Port of Longview loves coal and we think it's great. That's absurd. That is not the case. The Port of Longview is not in the coal import or export business as we speak. Millennium Bulk Terminals is not part of the Port of Longview. We, as a community, need the infrastructure for these interchanges for a number of reasons. The port needs it. The city of Longview needs it. Look at the city of Longview's industrial wind farm out there. Kind of been a ghost town, get a little industry, not much happens, and it goes quiet for a while. They need the improvements. What about us? I say us as in all of us. Barlow Point. We got to get trucks and trains out to Barlow Point. So this does not serve just Millennium Bulk Terminals. In fact, it serves the entire community regardless of the cargo or who the neighbor is. Think of West Longview, you need some improvements. That's a great question though, sir. Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, that's the 432 deal. Yes, sir.
Well, you said the Port of Longview served Collins County, but there happens to be a couple other ports, Port of Klamath, Woodland.
Yes.
How do you divide this up? Who gets what area?
The districts are divided up. They're predetermined. They were predetermined well before I was born again. The lines, I believe our line with Port of Kalama is somewhere out on the I-5 area where Segali has that vacant property. Well, the Port of Kalama we're a revenue operating port at Port of Longview. In other words, we're heavily equipped, capital equipment. We need lots of shovels and front-end loaders and cranes and trains. The Port of Kalama, if people like to talk about that, the Port of Kalama has 4 docks. We have 8 berths. The Port of Kalama only has really 2 docks. The other are not their docks. So there's such a big difference in the ports of what we do and what kind of cargoes. We're proud to have the Port of Kalama as a neighbor, and I think they're proud to have us as their, because we're in this together, downriver neighbor. But there are differences of ports. Port of Kalama has followed an industrial building model. We have gone after a cargo model. Some models create more jobs, and some just creates more revenue.
Is the depth of water very much between Kalama and Longview?
Not federally. Years ago, of course, all the ports participated. Port of Longview, Port of Woodland, Port of Kalama, and Port of Vancouver all pitched in to help pay for the federal Columbia River deepening project, which went from 40 feet to 43 feet deep. Yes, did that 3 feet make a difference? Makes a huge difference. Only this much difference. We're talking Panamax ships. Ships at 740 feet above, Panamax, they can fit. You can haul more. By dredging that river, how many billions of dollars, Ashley, did it kick it back to us immediately? It put the Columbia River on the map. And that's just a great thing. It allows you growth potential. But the docks, people will think they're 43 feet. The river's maintained at that. But up against the docks, that doesn't mean they're 43 feet. Doesn't mean Kalama's got 43 feet. Doesn't mean Port of Longview has 43 feet. Some of shalling and shoaling and other ways and river ebbs and currents make deposits funny. So there are some of our docks that we have to go in and dredge, and they're not at 43 feet. So, that's nature working for you and against you when it comes to dredging. That's why we have capital dredging and we have maintenance dredging. It's like getting your hair cut. You're going to cut it. It's going to grow back. You got to get it cut again. So that's the deal with dredging. But distinctly on ports, Port of Kalama has the Northwest Innovation Project. A lot of controversy. Go to Tacoma. People are up in arms over a methanol plant. It's going to consume water. It's going to consume electricity. Okay. Also consumes a lot of payroll. It also provides up to 20% increase in budget for your Cowlitz County budget. New industry, if responsible, can provide quality family wage jobs and be environmentally responsible. What's wrong with that balance? What's wrong with it? So Port of Longview will take a look at any and all cargoes. We have not prejudiced cargoes. Our mission is to look at any and all cargoes to make sure it's a fit for you. Because again, each port gets to be unique, different. You have full control on who you elect. You can fire me. You can get me out of office. You can get me in office. That gives you every right to run your port. Like I say, Port of Kalama seems to get a lot of attention. I adore them. They're wonderful people. We have a great river system of ports, and we're all in this together, and that's the way we're supposed to act, and we're going to behave for the better of the community. Port of Kalama is not tax-free. You will hear that. They will hear that they don't collect any taxes. That is not true. The Port of Kalama consumes more grant money from Cowlitz County than the Port of Longview ever has. The Port of Longview has not taken any grant money since 2010 from Cowlitz County, where the Port of Kalama has done it religiously throughout the year. So you've got to always watch misinformation. They're a great port. They do not collect property taxes, but they are getting tax money. It's just in another indirect way. So, any questions I can answer on that? Tell you about the park or the airport? Yes, sir.
I read an article where someone was in the paper and it was commenting that Port of Longview was a operating port that was controlled by the commission, where like Port of Tacoma, they actually farm it out. I mean, they have these groups come in and they manage the port for the commission.
Yeah, at our model, and it's a lot like people ask that of like they do with city government. Some people have a mayor, some people have a city manager, some mayors are paid, some are volunteers. At ports, they're a little bit different, but our port is set by this: 3 commissioners, and we hire a CEO to do it. Port commissioners do not go down there and boss anybody around. Ashley, I am not her boss. She's my boss. She's a voter. I'm a port commissioner, but she works at the port. We pay our CEO to run the day-to-day operations of the port. It's a professional manager. And that keeps the port commissioner from meddling, micromanaging, macromanaging. Port commissioners are to set policy and govern accordingly. And there's only one person a port commissioner can even hire or fire. She's safe. I'm safe. It's the CEO. That's it. So we're not bosses. We don't go down there. We don't own the place. We go there to represent where you want to see your community go. It's pretty simple, and then generate policies and procedures that will get you there. Pretty simple.
I can speak to your question a little more, the operating versus non-operating. If you take a look, and we'll compare just the Cowlitz County ports, Longview is operating. Kalama and Woodland you would consider landlord ports, so they have docks. But Steelscape hires the labor for that. The grain terminal hires labor. We actually do the hiring and firing on the docks for cargo. So when Jeff mentioned Kalama versus Longview, we have 200, 300 pieces of rolling stock. Kalama has 0. So we don't lease out our docks. We operate them. We have an operations team who decides how many guys we're going to need and what equipment we're going to need and what environmental controls. Whereas like a Tacoma or a Seattle or a Kalama or Vancouver, they lease theirs to a third-party stevedore. So they just sit back and collect checks. We're boots on the ground outside. Maybe you can work on.
Yeah, I get to correct Ashley, so I'm going to just leave it at that. I get to beat her on a figure. The Port of Kalama does have some rolling stock. They have a they have a Peterbilt water truck. They have 2 150 extra. Yeah, I knew she'd catch me on it. But really, guys, why we need you to hear this is because if you had a front-end loader parked in your front yard, and you didn't have a front-end loader parked in your front yard, the guy with the front-end loader can potentially make more money, but it's going to cost some money. That front-end loader is going to eat $1,000 a wheel tires. And when you change the oil on a Jiffy Lube's not going to do it. It's going to be $500 just to change the oil. Expensive needs for operating power goes because that's what it takes for material handling. We have a lot of cranes and trains. I believe we own 4 locomotives at the very least. At the very least, we have our own industrial rail corridor. So we're very heavily built in infrastructure for all these unique cargoes. And there are a ton of cargoes that we can do.
That other ports can't.
Yeah.
Kalama has 2 grain docks, a steel dock, 4.
Yeah. Kalama only has 4 docks. There's a dock at Steelscape, there is a dock at Emerald, there is a dock at Peavey, and there is a dock at Temco.
So they're not likely to take us. But if you call and say, hey, I've got a load of ponies I'd like to import, you can bring it up to Longview because we have general cargo docks, operating equipment, and we, as the port, say yay or nay. Whereas when it's leased out to a third party, the port has no control. Or
Good point, thank you. Any questions? Want to talk about park? We could go to the park today. We're in the park business. It's 84. We could go out and fish or swim today. Cowlitz County, for years, of course, had Willow Grove Park. Of course, before that, the port really had it. It's kind of a hand-me-down, but it's not. The port had it first. All those 76 acres out there in DNR lands and whatnot, but that's old history. The point is, we have taken it over. Now it's going to cost a little money. It's going to cost $400,000 to $600,000 a year to take that park and to bring it up, how we've identified the needs to make it better for you. But I can assure you that creates opportunity. So we've held many, many public workshops on that, and it's just a great work in progress. Yes, sir.
Is that part of the Port's commission mission to support parks?
Actually, it's in the state legislation. It's in the mission statement of all ports. All ports in Washington State can do a number of things, but you better think about how you're serving your community, and that can include educational, recreational, and commerce activities. So absolutely, it's part of most ports. Most ports do get into the park business. We've somewhat avoided it. Parks don't make any money. We're a revenue operating port, so it's a little new to us. Parks take a subsidy for the benefit for you to enjoy a park, good restrooms and either green grass or no broken glass in the parking lot. It takes money. That's a little new to us. We haven't been in that business. We are now. That's where I mentioned the expense to it. It's caught me off guard a little bit. I'm a new commissioner, sit in budget meetings. $400,000 every year for a park? Whew. Unfortunately, that's really what it is. It costs a lot of money in order to provide such a service, but I think we're worth it, or I think the community is worth it. I think a good park is worth its weight in gold to us. It has a number of benefits. Now that the port has it, your port has it, we're going to take it further, and we're going to use it as another purpose, and that's to educate. It's very important that the port educates all people about the river system, the environment, and the economy. You have to tell people proper information in order to dispel misinformation. We're going to use that park as a way to help educate on a number of issues as well, too. Lots of work in progress.
Are you going to use the dredge spoils there too?
Well, originally, when we first picked up the park, there had been a 5-acre parcel at the very west end of the park that historically been used for dredge spoils, and you'll see the bowl and the 4-wheel or the marks all over it. Who's ever trying to set the high market? So that site, we thought when we first got the park early last year that we were thinking of expanding that from 5 to 20 acres and making a bigger dredge disposal site. That has since been kiboshed. It is not going to happen. The west end of the park is slated for pure public enjoyment, no commerce per se, maybe an amphitheater, maybe a dog walker, I don't know, but the west end is not going to be for sand placement spoils.
No mall though, right?
What's that?
No mall.
No mall. No mall.
A little humor.
Yeah, no mall. So, yeah, that's what the dredge spoils. Barlow Point will be a different story, though, because when you have 280 acres of property close to the river, you know you're going to have to preload it with millions and millions of tons of sand, whatnot. So if anybody's got any sand, would like to bring over a couple 100,000 yards of sand, we'd be more than happy to put it on Barlow Point, start preloading. But Willow Grove, no, it's not going to be a dredge disposal site as we marked it at this point.
We've heard rumors that we're going to turn it into a marine terminal, and that's not true either. You couldn't even get a ship there, so.
Yeah. The first thing you'll see happen at Willow Grove appears to have been very slow motion. The speed of government, don't blame the government for this one. The dock area at Willow Grove is pathetic. It needs to be dredged out. There's nothing we can do about that. That's not government being slow. That means we can only do the work between October, November, December, and February. There's only 4 months a year you can play in the water. So we're going to get to it. Got the permit. This October, we're going to dredge that out. Those docks are going to float again in there. Your boat's not going to run around. Right off the bat, in those docks that have those sharp and jagged edges and things that are broken, they get fixed. And in fact, think about what the park can do for your community. We've had talks of making that a placement area for first responders. Think of it like this, an expanded basin there. Everybody know what I'm talking about, where they launch the boats at Willow Grove? Think about maybe a 4th dock there, painted red and blue. Big sign on it saying, don't even think of parking here. What would that be used for? Police, fire, DNR, fish and wildlife. There are a number of things that the river does that can be safety sensitive, whether for the environment or for saving your life. There could be a drowning person that search and rescue needs to look for, or a dive team at that point, excuse me. But we as a port want to accommodate our first responders that may have been not thought of so much before. These are the men and women that come out at 3 in the morning and look for us when we're lost, or try to find our loved ones for us, or put a fire out on an island where some bratty little kids went out there with fireworks and started a fire. So Willow Grove is more than a community fun park. To me, as a port commissioner, it's a staging area for emergency response. The sheriff can come out there and arrest the drunk boater These things are very important to us for the way we do, and we can make that park much better with ideas like that. In fact, the park may be off the grid. It's been talked about where we're going to put some money into the grid for infrastructure. Well, why would we hook it up to the existing power lines? Why wouldn't we hook it up to our own wind generators and solar and make a little coin back with extra power? It's a small park. Why don't we think about doing that? So we're going to take this park where no counties took it before, because we're going to take it where we want to take it. That's the difference. Of course, Cowlitz County, I don't want to beat them up too much. I don't see any county commissioners here, but they did let their parks run down. So we can't do that to you. Okay. Anything else you'd like to discuss?
I like it.
What, Willow Grove?
I like your thoughts on it.
Oh yeah, thank you. And I loved her thoughts. I've never met this lady before, but I loved her thoughts. We put on 6 open houses. We took comments, and this is never going to stop. In fact, we don't want to be like everybody else. I want to know what you're thinking and feeling. We've created a 5-member community advisory committee to run this park. We're not going to let the county run the park. They didn't do a very good job. We're not park professionals. We want to move cargo and get jobs. So we want a citizen from each district. We want a student, the youngins. Let them think about it. So we've got a 5-member coming up, and they're essentially going to take all the gripes and complaints, and they're going to be our signing board. They're going to drive that park for you. This is how we tell you it's your park. I'm not on that committee. She's not going to be on it. Your park, you run it. You tell us what you want. You'll go to the park superintendent. The park superintendent will come back to the CEO or commissioner or whatnot. You'll be able to drive your park that way. It's going to be yours through governance. What I would like to tell you, though, is future cargoes. Anybody have any questions on our controversial decisions, or were they not controversial, on oil terminals, Haven Energy projects?
Yeah, you could talk a little bit about Haven Energy. Was their problem they just weren't capitalizing on it? Are we talking about propane, a dangerous cargo?
Sure. Richard's got a cheap shot on me here because he knows I wasn't a commissioner last year. So I'm going to act like I was, but I wasn't. The Haven Energy project was a proposed butane, essentially. Think of propane terminal that was proposed, and the commission made a decision on this. I believe it was February, March of 2015. It was decided upon. I was not a commissioner. It was unanimous by the existing commission to say no, even though the model showed they made a lot of money. A lot of money coming out of that potential gas operations. We couldn't make it work, or the commission at the time, they didn't think it felt with the modeling of cargo, or conducive cargoes. They thought it may be a little bit too risky environmentally with where it was going to go. And it didn't really fit quite exactly in with the existing activities of the port. People don't understand that. When you look at a new factory or a new company, they're strangers. They still have to fit in an existing system. We already have really good tenants and customers we deal with at the port. We're not going to put their thoughts and feelings aside for the new guy. Seniority always counts. Our port customers, staff, our vendors, our shareholders, they need to have a say in it too. And it didn't fit. It didn't fit for a number of purposes, for the size of room they needed for a laydown yard. So the gas project, it was a 3-0 vote. I wasn't there, but that's what they said. No to Haven. Then I come along a little bit later. Port is talking with Riverside and Waterside. They were proposing a biodiesel, biofuel, combination oil refinery, crude oil refinery as well. Totally different than an oil terminal. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk oil, that F word, fossil fuels, along the river you can get a refinery or you can get a terminal. A terminal is simply a reload facility, like the Port of Vancouver is working with right now with Tesoro to build one. We had a proposal for a refinery. So it's going to bring crude oil in, it's going to split it, it's going to blend in biofuels, and it's going to ship some off state. It was a huge proposed project. But we said no to it. We said no 3-0. Why did we do that? Well, we want you to know we don't just go down there and don't do anything. We are not asleep at the wheel. We look at the proponents. Show me who you are. It's called a vetting process. I want to know, you got any money? You got any permits? Are you going to fit? Are you going to be wanted here? Are you going to mix with what we want? And I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, because I did write that motion. I voted no against it. I didn't really vote no against it because of the type of cargo it was. That dirty F word, fossil fuels. I voted no against it because the proponents had no financial wherewithal to build this, much less almost any other facility. Exactly. In fact, they weren't who they said they were. When you get documents back that are whited out, they're tardy, and money is due for cost recovery at staff, you can tell right then they're not going to be a good fit. We are not going to risk and give you fake hopes for jobs and fake hopes for anything that may not get to fruition. It's almost like we can't waste your time because they were wasting our time. The answer is no. Leave the Port of Longview. You couldn't build this project if you wanted to. Quit dangling the hope in front of people for a family wage job when you couldn't build it and you couldn't get it done. It was a lot of hype. So we made the proper decision, effective and quick. Instead of kicking it down the road and taking it a month, if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. They're out.
It was all hype.
Yep. People tend to do that with cargoes. For every oil rush, there'll be a gold rush. For every mineral, as I mentioned, cargoes become cycling. What's popular today may be forgotten tomorrow. All this talk of fracking. 3 years ago, you couldn't get back to those states and talk the F word about fracking and pumping up oil and all this. If you go back to Denver or Colorado, of course you call it the same place, I'm sorry, any of those states that were so heavily involved in frack, do you know what you will see as far as trucks and equipment? It's everywhere. And they're not working. That market has crashed. Coal has begun to crash on the East Coast. But again, we're not into coal. So things change. That's the world. So as a port, our job really is to get ready for the change. How do you guess what's coming next? That's the hardest part of this job that I got. Love the job, but that's really my hardest thing I do. I got great staff, I got a great number of things, but how do you guess into the future? How do you hedge? You don't hedge very much. I'll tell you why. Because with your money, your taxpayer money, you cannot speculate. I have no right or any other commissioner to take your money and not act in good faith with financial stewardship and be totally responsible for your money, your resources. We are not in the business of speculating for corporations that will want to play Wall Street at your docks. That is not how it works. That is not being fair to you as a representative. That's how I represent you at that. Anything else you have? Get me all fired up over oil, see?
You made a statement that you don't have any control over the parks.
Over the what?
Over the parks.
No. I as one man do not. That's what we did. We created a board, so a board collected of citizens would run the park.
The commission has the control over the parks, and that they have to provide the budget, don't they?
They provide the budget, there's the control.
Yeah.
There's
The budget is definitely part of a control, and there better be control. Do you want somebody saying, I need $3 million for new swing sets, and you don't want any checks and balances on it? A commissioner gets to come in and say, does my community really want it? Because if you do, and I hear you, okay, I'll vote for it. You want $3 million in new swing sets? That's what you want. The majority will rule.
You never want that kind of money with only one person.
Yeah, it's the checks and balance. And in fact, since I've been commissioner, I'm more proud of this commission than I've ever been. I have two wonderful partners. We don't always get along. We don't always agree. But who cares? A difference of opinion is what's matter, being heard. And we talk about these things a lot, and we don't always agree. But one thing for sure is we know we want to make sure to be conducive to the majority interest. It's so important to tell you that. Not super majority, simple majority. 51% feel that way, you go with it. That's my job. You know, you don't want one or two people to pretend it's their port. I keep using the words your and our. That's the kind of port you want to deal with. You don't want one or two special interests or hidden agendas to ever run your assets that they've entrusted to the port. In fact, since we've been elected, my people I'm so proud of, we have gone through the horrible, boring process of paperwork. We've had to go back and redo policies on board governance, delegation of authority, a lot of long-winded documents that took forever, but they needed to get done to ensure proper balance so that nobody can go rogue. No one or two people can run away on a commission. It's fair. Checks and balance. We've done that. So we've done a lot you may not notice behind the scenes, but those things are in place now. Very happy.
I have one last question.
Sure.
How many years did you attend port meetings before you were elected?
Well, I went in disguise a few times. I didn't want to get picked off or shot at in the audience because I've been both a critic and a complimenter of the port. I'm a really blunt guy, in case you can't tell, so I'm not shy. I went to the port. I started attending port meetings almost 3 years ago. Just as a citizen, but I also haunt the Cowlitz County Commissioners. I haunt the City of Longview 7 p.m. Thursday meetings when I have time. I believe if you want to know what's going on in this community, you give up your 84-degree afternoons once in a while and you come hear it for yourself. Don't trust the media, ever. Trust yourself. So I practice what I preach. I go out and engage. So I attended for years before I thought if I could apply myself. I own businesses in town. I'm happily married, got 2 wonderful children. There's nothing in my private life that I need.
What businesses do you own?
Own TPI, own a company called PSS, also Crescent Investments and other small LLCs, everything from property to sanitation. The point is, I'm an entrepreneur. I live here. I know what it's like to make a dollar. I know how hard it is to create a decent job. I have created hundreds of decent jobs. And when spying on the port for all those meetings, I thought, we've got to change. The port I thought was struggling a little bit. So I ran for that office. Made a lot of promises. I made promises such as change the meeting dates. Why would you have your meetings on Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock and say the public, you can come on down and talk to us, but you can't? You had to choose between going to a port meeting or a Cowlitz County meeting. So one of those 2 meetings needed to be moved so that you would have a chance to come hear us. Whether one of you showed up or all 102,000 citizens showed up, it didn't matter. We must be open and public and accessible to you. So we moved the meetings. We've created more accessible. We've changed those governance documents that I told you about. We've done a number of things since I've been in that we've done. Again, I can't be more proud. We've had more special meetings than I can recall at any time. Not because we're state legislators and we can't get along with the governor and we veto. No. This isn't Olympia. This is the Port of Longview. We've held a record number of special meetings because we believe in getting our business done and getting it done properly and quickly. Don't kick the can down the road. I know policies and stuff get boring. Sometimes I need coffee to stay awake when you write policies, but they're very important. Without rules and procedure and order, chaos can come. So we've done a lot of that to build our infrastructure and how we conduct our business. Like I say, a lot of things have changed. I'm thrilled that the port is more open-minded than ever, because that's what it's going to take. You can't tell people that you've already made up your mind when you haven't heard the information. Who on earth can make up their mind without looking at information and whatnot? So we're very cautious and we're hungry for information on whatever we do. But again, it's your port. And we're going to have a party, like I mentioned, 2021. Who knows where we're going to be by then? I mean, as far as the office and whatnot. A lot of things can happen in that time. You want to talk taxes? What you pay, how you pay it.
Sure.
No, you want to give more, don't you? Okay, let's pass the hat. We need it. No. I say this because it's sensitive. If you don't think paying taxes shouldn't get your attention, then all Americans need to pay attention to taxes. It's the American way, but you better pay attention. Washington State in 1911, when the Ports Authority was founded, you could tax people $2 for every $1,000 assessed value. Now, nowadays, fast forward many years later, 2016, the Port of Longview we collect from you, property owners, 43 cents per every assessed 1,000. So if you want a $100,000 home, you're going to pay $43 to the Port of Longview. Back in 1911, that would be $20,000. It's funny. It's the only tax, I love to tell this story, that really has gone down. The ability to tax from you. The Ports Authority and power in Washington State has crashed.
Bravo.
$2 to 0.43. That's the way it should be. I agree. Live within your means. Live with a budget. You got a budget. You got a budget. I'm on a fixed income. Everybody has to think like that. That's what a good operating revenue port can do. So that's where we're headed with that. But taxation becomes sensitive because this year, We stand to collect about $3.6 million from all of you. And we got a small belly when it comes to tax money. I love to beat up on government because I'm not a big government fan sometimes, but yeah. Taking your hard-earned tax dollars from you is a big burden and responsibility we take very seriously. The great news is the Port of Longview consumes a little itty bitty of your pie chart. I feel good about that. The Mosquito District and other districts are right up there with us. We don't get a lot of taxes from you. I don't think you should have to pay a lot of taxes, so that's a good thing. Where the county and others, look at your tax bill. Where'd the money go? Again, if you have a $100,000 home, we'll take the $40 roughly from you. And if you think as a community that's a price you're willing to pay to invest in infrastructure approval, that's great. But if you want a tax reduction, we'll adjust our plans. It's again, what do you want? But I will tell people that we are on the slimmest diet out of all your public and municipal corporations, other cities and county governments. The Port is on the super slim fast diet. Nobody comes close to us. We collect less in proportion than any other government agency around. Hands down. And yet, we put in hundreds, millions of opportunity. And the reason is because when the Port gives a job, we don't give a $2.99 an hour job. We pay our men and women who are highly skilled, whether they're trade or not, staff or on the dock, a family wage job. Because that is simple economics. I'm a business owner, I live here, I'm your neighbor. You need to make enough money for a quality of life, for disposable income. You need to pay your taxes. But you also need to spend some money and have your life as you see fit. You should go on vacation. You should be able to go down to these dealerships and spend some money and buy a car, because we need you to help perpetuate this good, healthy economy. So jobs and wages it's not just about jobs, it's about good jobs. The Port of Longview is not in the business of putting out minimum wage jobs. That does not work. That will never work. We have a responsibility for that family wage job. That is non-negotiable. That's how it works. Question, anybody? Real ornery on wages. I don't think men and women, there's a standard. There really is. You have to live. Oh, no.
I just got a comment. I can't think of where you get more bang for your buck for return to the community for your tax dollars, free tax dollars you have to pay.
I gotta tell you, people will stop me in the store and I hear some horrible things sometimes. People will say, those mean old dumb longshoremen. I don't know any. What are you talking about? They make too much. They, them, you, trades, unions, you're just taking all this money. Whoa! We are a revenue operating port. Where are you getting this we? Are you paying longshoremen's wages? Did you write them a check this month?
Have they ever gone down and worked a day in their shoes?
That's correct. They haven't. Those critics misinformation. Longshoremen are paid by the shippers. Are you kidding me? That is covered by the people, our customers. It's not coming out of my wallet, but you're right. It puts it back in the economy. Like, it's very important. And those critics that are so envious of that wage, when's the last time they stood on the dock? January 3rd, when it's 19 degrees, 3 a.m. in the morning, it's raining sideways, you haven't seen your wife or your husband for 3 or 4 days because you're a shift worker and you're cold, and what could fall above you will kill you. It's worth every penny. Safety, quality of life. The port has those obligations. That is the business we're in. So people are our best asset, and we treat them well, because treating them well is treating ourselves well. We're all brothers and sisters in this community. That's how the economics of job creation in the port work, the way I see it. Another commissioner may have a different view, but I doubt it. I would say I'm pretty uniform on that census with the other commissioners. We feel very strongly about that. Good wages. Anything else you'd like to? Anything open table for you? Airport? You know our involvement in the airport? Anybody fly an airplane in here? Anybody got any airplanes in the backyard we need to know of? I bet you've got a Jet Ranger helicopter, don't you, hidden out back? I knew she did. Currently, the Port of Longview is a member, one of 4 members in the airport, which everybody grew up knowing, Kelso Airport. And then it was changed to Moult Taylor Field, or Airfield.
What'd you say?
Originally, the airport was called Kelso Airport.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of renamed in tribute to the Molt Taylor Airport. And Molt Taylor was here about 1953, 52. He was over here in California. He's the guy that built the flying car. We're famous worldwide for the flying car. Of course, it flopped, so our famous didn't last very good. So they renamed the airport at one time to Molt Taylor to honor him. Now it's known as the Southwest Washington Regional Airport. It's kind of like the Longview Kelso Chamber of Commerce. One day it's one name, and like River City, the bus, is it Cubs? Is it River City? I don't know what name it is, but there's an airport in Kelso, and it's currently called SWRA. You, through the port, you're one of 4 members. The Port of Longview, the City of Kelso, the City of Longview, and Cowlitz County all contribute to keep the lights on there. Let's cut to the chase. The airport doesn't create a lot of jobs. It needs subsidy. In order to keep those lights on at the airport, currently it takes about $242,000 a year to balance the budget. Each entity, the 4 I mentioned, which are your entities too, your taxpayers, cities, counties, port, $76,000 a year.
How many planes go through it in a year?
She would have to ask me that. The last count was derivative from the 2011 master plan, and it was actually right around 7,000 planes were counted at the airport. How you count airplanes in an airport, the FAA rule is acceptable. They don't have to land. A plane even flying above the airport counts as in the airspace. That's the way it is. So at one time in 2011, it was estimated at 7,000 airplanes. That was for the whole year, and whether they landed or not didn't matter. The actual landings.
Directional, just because the plane's flying over so they see the lights and
Yeah, that's an FAA. They want you to count. They want you to count because when you get over 500 planes that fly above your airport, and you're talking about a 5,000-foot runway down below, you get FAA funding. So you count airplanes that fly over your little airport if you want big dreams to get FAA money. You'll look up in the sky, and the approved counting method is a scratch pad and a guy with a piece of paper. There's one airplane. I see it contrail. I hear an engine. There's that counts. Oh, he landed. It doesn't matter. It all counts. The airport is not served by many. In 2008, it appeared to be at its high point, right when the recession hit. Anybody remember that ugly recession in 2007-8? Well, that was the high time for the airport. There were 78 planes tied down there at that time. Today, I'm getting current data, but I believe it's about 32. I will tell you the trend at the airport has been down. But recently, we've had some activity. That helicopter that flies over here a lot, go thump, 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 life flight. You guys see this a million times. Go to St. John's over here. That lease was just signed. That helicopter is going to start sleeping in Kelso with a little crew shack. Their life flight has signed a lease to actually run their operations out of Kelso. They may even buy some fuel. That's
going to rest on the hospital all the time then?
No, they're not. They're going to actually take off from there most of the time, and they'll serve out of the airport. But for the airport, it's some activity. Going from ghost town to dinosaur to cricket hibernation. Wow, 2016 comes along. We're looking at that. We're also looking at other things, potentially for an air museum, a living air museum. I will pitch to the board. So ladies and gentlemen, and Dwayne, who's recording this, you'll hear it really publicly for first. We'll make a pitch for a not-for-profit called the Living Wings and Armor Foundation to actually build a living museum at the airport at no taxpayer expense. I'm really proud of that. What I'm going to propose is a group of gentlemen that have started this foundation. It's a 501 not-for-profit. They have restored military warbirds, fixed-wing and rotorcraft, helicopters, Hueys, T-6s, P-38s, and then you get into the good Army stuff. Jeeps, ducks, tanks, half-tracks. Cool stuff. It is cool. And that museum could be up and operational possibly by the end of 2017, that quick, and no taxpayer dollars to be used. Imagine a museum over there that is open 7 days a week, that is staffed by volunteers. All of our grandchildren and children have a place to go get educated about war, history, because we forget about our vets. We forget about our history, and you don't get to live history. Living history is the key words what I'm proposing at the airport. Not a display of an old bird up on top of a pole, and the kids drive by and Daddy says that's a B-17, and the kid has no clue what a B-17 Boeing bomber is. We have a chance to put the little Kelso or the Southwest Washington Regional Airport on the map, not with industry as much, but more like a destination deal. And that's something I'm going to propose because airports are restrictive. Anything we can do to get that airport to create interest and to pay for itself. Do you want to continue to pay $76,000 a year to keep the lights on there? If you do, tell me, and I'll keep making motions. But it is your airport, but you don't own an airplane. Or some of you don't. That's the problem. What do you do with a big 100-acre facility that only serves a few people? How many of you in the room are pilots? Or past pilots? Or gonna be a pilot? Okay, I am. I was a private pilot. One of 30. So what do you do as representing your taxpayers? Do you throw a lot of your assets to serve one of 30 people? Is that the majority? Is the airport a benefit to the community? Do we bail as a port?
Has this room ever flown out of that airport?
Well, I haven't. My point is, these are some of the tough decisions that we're struggling through right now as a board, as a commission. Where we talk about this. What do we do? What do you want done? Can't give you any jobs. Got 7 over there. What are we going to do? So look for that at work. It's work in progress as well. The airport is going to have, it has 4 capital projects on the books. One is to tear down that old beacon. Anybody ever seen the old beacon on the red and white tower over there? Yes, it's older than me too as well. But that beacon's special. You just don't want to tear it down. That was the beacon, the mail carriers. When you were living around in the 20s, you leaned out your window flying that old Stearman to deliver mail. That beacon was a navigation aid, really, to keep the air mailmen in the air alive. So it has great historical significance. Wouldn't it be fun just to move it over to your Living History Museum and preserve it? Because it's ours. The other project we're doing at the airport, of course, fencing. It's an airport. Do you want kids and deer running out in front of a twin-engine plane? Absolutely not. Security and safety is paramount. So this is a fencing project. The other project is to get rid of some of those old hangars. Some of those hangars there are barely standing up. It's called the Sullivan hangars. They are going to be torn down. Besides that, they're too close to the railroad. They're not conducive to flight patterns or runway use, taxi use. So that's going to be done. And then the 4th and final big project that I'm aware of is the airport extension. Airports and airplanes like to have big or small. Size matters. And there seems to be this magic when you get your airfield that's 5,000 feet long, everything gets better. Well, in order to get that airport to 5,000 foot landing strip, that's going to cost $3.7 to $30 million. No, I didn't make that up. I'm perfectly sane. I know that's a huge spread. How can you go from $3 million to $30 million? That's huge. Well, that's the way it's been told to me because there's a number of factors. So extending that runway to 5,000 feet, it's going to cost something like that. And what do? So you get a 5,000 foot runway. What does that mean? You can land a KC-135 tanker. Well, who for? What war are we fighting at the airport? Okay, I got a 5,000 foot airstrip. I can land class 2 aircraft, Citations, Lears. Certain planes have certain restrictions that say no matter what you got with fuel, weight, and balance, unless it's 5,000 foot, you ain't taking off, regardless of whether you're on one runway or facing the other. So that's something to do. Do we spend a lot of money to make that runway longer? Or are we okay the way it is? You see these tough decisions, what do? And the government, your government, the FAA, they'll make it sound easy. They'll give you 95% of your money. Okay, you give me 95% of 35 million, I still got to come up with several million. It's not that easy. And if I do, how do I look the taxpayer in the face and say, you got 5,000 foot runway, you can't drive your car on it, you don't fly, what did I do for you? These are some of the demons and the things that we are balancing with right now. But believe me when I say the majority has to rule. That's how America still runs. That's how the Port of the Longview runs, and that's how I'm going to continue to participate. Anything else I can answer for you?
Yeah, but you've done a very good job.
Oh, I'm sorry. You want to talk oil and get me excited again? I'll do that for you. I can really rest. I can tell you what we're doing. What are we doing from here forward with your money, your time, and you always forget, it's not just your money. When you formed the port, we took something from you. We have the ability to take your land. We have the ability to encumber things from you. We can seize property in order to create jobs. So it's a huge responsibility. But your port is primed. I would honestly say, I'm a huge fan of our port. I'd better be. You cut me, I will bleed Port of Longview. I believe the Port of Longview is getting ready to explode. No, I can't stand before you today and tell you that I've got a dog food factory and a wood pellet factory and I'm building cars. I can't give you specific projects right now and make a promise that the job starts tomorrow. What I can tell you is we're investing into our infrastructure now to get ready for that. It's not going to be if, it's always when. Longview is basically the last golden resource on this river that can be conducive for growth. So watch Kalama, but get ready to watch us. Kalama's a great port. Again, all partners in this. I want to thank you for putting up with me. I obviously talk too much, but I'm really proud to be available for you. That's why my card goes out to everybody. 7 days a week, that's what the job comes with. It doesn't matter whether you're in my district. That's what I like about politics. I don't like politics, but we use politics to get it done. And I don't care what district you're in, 1, 2, or 3. I'm a District 1 commissioner. That's another beauty about the port. There's no lines. You can talk to any commissioner you want, anytime you want. We represent everyone. We do have districts, but we are there for you. So if there's anything that we can do for you, let us know. We have meetings now on Tuesday night. Now, you're retired mostly, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm jealous, and you can make it to any meetings, right? You are welcome at any and all the meetings that we do. That's the beauty. The Port of Longview has come great strides to be about as open as you can. We kind of getting tired of the T word. It's called transparency. We practice it. There's no secrets at the port. We are an Open Public Meetings Act requirement, and that's the way we do it. We like to talk public. We like to conduct business in public because that's the only way it's acceptable. Nothing behind anybody. It has to be done the right way. Again, thank you very much for letting me come here today and yak your ear off. If you need anything else, you let me know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Oh, no problem. Thank you.